Hey everyone, Laurel here, Minnesota Zone 5. I just filmed this video and I think my mic was switched off. There was no sound, so here we go again. Just want to do a little spring bloom tour of all the blooms that have opened. These are the tulips, what they look like when they're wide open. I love those black centers, kind of remind me of poppies. And then I always forget there's one pink one that made it into this pack of these red and kind of orange yellow. They're yellow, but they have like orange, I don't know, speckling on them. A bunch of emergency vehicles coming to my street now. It's like the third fire truck I've heard pull up. So hopefully nothing dire is going on. Everybody's okay. Everybody's house is okay. I think I'll pause here and join later. It's getting noisy. All right, well, they seem to be driving to the other, further down the street, so I don't know what's going on. The neighbor across the street actually this winter had a house fire. His entire basement burned out while they were gone. But the houses here are constructed so solidly, and he had the door there's a door at the top of the stairs at the basement that was shut. And so the fire contained itself to the basement and actually snuffed itself out. It went out on its own. They just came home and noticed something was weird and quickly realized what had happened, called the fire department, but there was nothing much to do other than they confirmed that the fire was out. So his house is under construction, but he lost everything in his basement and then had huge smoke damage. It went through the HVAC upstairs, so everything was smoke damaged. So he lost everything upstairs also that couldn't be like washed, like clothing or dishes, that kind of stuff. So that was a major bummer. He's basically having a whole house remodel this spring and summer. So hopefully that's not the case. I'm hoping it's a false alarm in this instance. We have this Dicentra. This is a variety that likes more sun, and it kind of blooms throughout the summer, but it stays smaller and compact, not like the traditional bleeding hearts, which are shade-loving plants, bloom in the spring and then go dormant. Couldn't tell you the variety. I know it's one of the proven winners ones, but I have a few of them. I also had thought this little ghost fern coming up with all its fiddleheads, I thought I had transplanted that, but evidently I was incorrect. No blooms yet on the Solomon seal. They get little white, sort of bell-looking flowers hanging from the bottom of their stems in the spring. I will probably figure out a new setup for the cat food, because I do, use this bench quite a lot in the summer. The variegated Brunnera is blooming. This is why it's called False Forget-Me-Not, because of its beautiful, bright blue, petite blooms. We also have the hostas starting to come up back here. I planted those late in the fall. And the red-berried elderberry. You can see its white blooms are starting to fade now. Those will turn into bright red berries the birds will eat. We love those, but this is the first thing to leaf out and bloom in the spring, and it's a native, so I absolutely love it. Again, the Solomon seal down there, no blooms yet. Another variegated Brunnera. We are almost at bloom time with this Jacob's ladder. And I can see the Ajuga down here, this ground cover, blooms bright blue flowers, and that's starting to bud up as well. Let's see, I don't think there are buds yet. Well, maybe. On this clematis. We do have hostas coming up here, so I'm going to be careful where I step. But this is a lungwort. I did look it up. It's called Moonshine. And it has these like pale blue blooms. Really pretty. And these leaves tend to stay more solid silver, which is sort of a little darker variegation around the edges. So that should pop in the shade. Hopefully it still gets enough shade in this spot without the spruce trees. Right now, this area always got morning sun because the sun moves, that is east, so it heads across the yard this way. And then during the heat of the afternoon, this area was always in shade. So that is the question as to how much a difference the spruce trees will make being gone. Now, lamium blooming here. This area, I did plant ground covers that, yes, they are known to be thugs and take over. However, I need something that I can walk on in order to continue trimming. This is kind of like the back of my neighbor's backyard, which isn't really accessible. It has all these little white flowers down there, native wild violets, so those are pretty, but everything tends to encroach. This is a lilac here that's all budded up. It fragrances the whole yard when that's in bloom. But we've got, what's that called? That's the invasive shrub. It's a huge problem all over Minnesota wild areas. But I have to access this area to keep everything trimmed back, so I can't plant anything against the fence that I can't walk around or on. But we've got the little wild violets have seeded themselves in my yard, and they just stay in tidy little patches. If they land somewhere I don't want them, they're fairly easy to pull up because they don't have real deep rhizomes. So I just let them do their thing. I think they're adorable, and they're native, so that's great. Let's see over here. Oops. This is my favorite lungwort. This is Trevi Fountain. And too bad now it's in the sun. When I filmed this the first time, it was in the shade, so you can see the bloom color a little bit better. But beautiful cobalt blue blooms with a hint of purple in there and some little pink blooms, but generally they'll turn all cobalt when they open up. Daffodils are still going, but nearing sort of the end of their bloom cycle. But we have, try not to fall over. We have the bleeding heart here. This is just a traditional white bleeding heart, old-fashioned bleeding heart. It's cute little bathing ladies blooms. I don't know if that's what they're called, but that's what they always look like if you turn them upside down. Kind of when the blooms open, they look like a little lady in a bathtub, kind of to me. So. And let's see, we've got this, this is my old garden bed disassembled, and where the stumps were ground out, they left the wood chips for me as mulch. So I still need to take over these patches of grass so it's all mulch and then start working on the back area there, but I've just kind of left these laying out. The rain has washed them clean of the soil pretty much, but they're also over patches of grass that I'm trying to kill off, so a little less physical labor for me that way. This is a Virginia winter glow, pink blooms on the main plant. The other ones got a little trampled, so they're recovering, but I do see some blooms forming in there, so, and this one's doing okay. I'm going to keep the cage still just so I don't accidentally step on it for a little bit. And this hellebore is looking good. It's putting on fresh leaves. You can see this variety has variegated leaves. It's called Frost Kiss series. That one I believe is Penny's Pink. If it blooms, I guess we'll find out, or if I find the tag. This is another of the hardy or sun-loving Dicentra. I believe this one has darker, more reddish blooms. But that likes more sun again and blooms throughout the season. Unlike the traditional bleeding heart. We have more of those tulips over here. You can see this area gets a lot more shade. This was kind of the first area I developed in this garden, and the garden bed has slowly, I think when I planted those, it kind of ended where this sweet tea heucherella is, and I have extended it further forward. But I had this big bag of tulips, and I was anxious to see some spring color, so they've kind of petered out, but the yellow ones are gone. It used to be both, but I just leave the red. I love those black centers. It's funny, tulips, they open up in the sun and then close up real tight. Like yesterday, it was cold and rainy in the morning. They were all closed up. More daffodils over here. They've kind of gotten weighed down a little bit by the rain, all the rain we've had. And they're kind of ending their bloom cycle. I see a yellow one, bud, that'll open soon. And the ajuga here, chocolate chip, is all budded up, so that'll bloom bright, bright blue, kind of bloom spikes very soon. I did find the name or remember the name. It's called Boom Chocolata Geranium. It's a hardy geranium from Proven Winners. I could not for the life of me remember the name. Like many plants. I do love the ornamental allium. These are Millennium. How they look when they come up. They're just real kind of grassy texture, but they stay real neat and tidy in this little clump. Really, they stay neat and tidy all year. So if you're looking for a low maintenance perennial that stays neat and tidy, needs very little upkeep, go with Millennium Allium or similar ornamental allium. I do have a Nepeta down here. No blooms yet. Those, and same thing with the ornamental oregano. Those bloom a little bit later. We do have some blooms opening on these Brunnera here. This is Alexandra. These, I have 4 of them kind of around the hydrangeas here. Over on this side, I do see some Heucherella blooms coming up. I'm going to say that one's Pink Fizz or something like that. More of the Brunnera bright blue blooms. This one is Jack Frost. And then we have the Raspberry Splash Lungwort. I love how this looks together with this Brunnera, especially in bloom. They both bloom at the same time. Too bad I can't really capture it in the sun here. But yeah, these bright pink, raspberry pink blooms, along with the bright blue, just very pretty together. And then the foliage looks nice together too in the summer because the lungwort has, of course, that nice, bold, kind of hosta-like foliage, but with polka dots. And then this one has sort of that veining variegation in it. Really pretty. No bloom stalks yet on the Astilbe. That one is called Maggie Daly. I just transplanted these 3 in the late summer last year. So they'll get more shade here. And then this area, because it's a low spot, when we do get rain, it tends to stay more wet for longer. So I'm hoping they'll be happier here. And of course, this little lungwort that I rescued. Hopefully that will make a comeback. And then we have, gosh, I need to mow and trim really bad. Another Brunnera. That one is variegated. Well, it's not as variegated as the other ones that are called variegated. So who knows? Doesn't really matter. It's still pretty. And let's see, get over here. There's a bunch of buds on the Jacob's Ladder here. And then I showed this previously, but this is also another hellebore, I believe, in the wedding series of hellebore. So we'll continue on. Everything looking good over here. This Nepeta will probably start putting on bloom soon. I can give you a little seedling update over here because I transplanted the lettuce. So we've got Selenova kind of behind the garlic. I put one there because I kind of ran out of room. So those have enjoyed the rain as well. And these tulips are just about done. They're pretty faded out now. I am pleased that they didn't get eaten by squirrels. So that's a bonus. I got to enjoy them this year. And the allium are about to open up soon here. And then we've got this azalea budding up, Rosy Lights. I'm excited to see that for the first time. I do see a bunch of seeds down here that look an awful lot like Cosmos seedlings. So I'm wondering if one of the Cosmos I had here last year has hardy seedlings, and I might... I'm not going to pull those. I'm going to see what happens. See if I can get some extra Cosmos out of those, although I did seed a bunch of them, just in case. No blooms yet on the yarrow. This is Noblessa yarrow, blooms white, but that one is usually one of the first to bloom and the last. Really, it blooms longer than anything else in this bed, at least in my experience. I do see a bloom stalk forming on this foxglove, Dalmatian peach. Got an Amsonia poking up there. Oh, a little bloom starting on the Veronica too. Otherwise, I think some bloom on the Cat's Pajamas Nepeta. Otherwise, the hardy tulips hardy tulips. Native tulips are starting here. Got one that opened up. This is what I love about them. They open up and super wide. Kind of look like lilies when they're open. They are just full of buds, and then that just sunny yellow. So love those. Love it when that patch all blooms together. I did trim up. This is also sweet tea heucherella. And then, let's see, bring you up or you know what, I can show you the dandelions also in bloom. Beautiful. They are cheerful blooms, but okay, I haven't heard any more fire trucks, so hopefully everything's all right. This is about to open up. This is Rose Mega Splash Calliope Geranium. And then we have all my work yesterday. These are all of the canna tubers, canna rhizomes, potted up, all of the dahlias potted up. That was a lot of work. You can see I have a frost cloth here because we're getting down a couple nights still. Every week we're getting down into the low 40s, which is not anywhere close to a frost, but I just decided to cover these for a few days just because some of them are already sprouting. So you can see, like back in that pot back there, there's a little sprout of the dahlia tuber. So I just don't want to risk it. And then, it's not much trouble to just protect them just in case. Looks like I need to water over here. I also had potted these up about a month ago. Those are the elephant ears that I just save. They take forever to sprout. So if you have elephant ears and they're taking forever, don't worry, that's normal. And then I potted, this is a whole tray of 24 count tray of zinnias that I seeded. And then I have a 16 count tray of cosmos, nasturtium, and straw flower. Hardening off some seedlings here. I'll probably take these inside soon. And I showed in my last video the annuals that I have collected so far. All right, and then we'll take you up front because there are a few more blooms up there. All right, so up in the front yard, the hellebore is really in its full glory here. This is called Spanish Flare, is this variety. The smaller one was clearance last year. Can't remember exactly what it's called. It could be Frost Kiss Molly's White. I'm not remembering now, but I love Spanish Flare. It has that beautiful burgundy center with these, and even though the blooms are downturned, this bright color really pops in the garden too, in the shade. The underside of the petals being that bright chartreuse, kind of yellowish. This one too, I love the white blooms. I'm excited to see. I'm just impressed by how many blooms there are. There are even more coming up down here for having just been planted for the first year. Even though they're downturned, I honestly think, the inside of the bloom is cool, but I think the back of the petals really are more showy because they have that sort of burgundy mauve variegation on them, and they're more white. So beautiful stuff. I did trim back the hydrangeas. Those are little Quickfire. They are panicle hydrangeas. Any of the Quickfire series, Limelight series, Firelight. Gosh, there's like Strawberry Sundae, Vanilla Strawberry, Pinky Winky. There's all kinds of panicle hydrangeas. If you have panicle hydrangeas and they are starting to bud out and you haven't trimmed them yet, don't worry. Go ahead and trim them. Even if they fully leafed out, as long as they're not starting to set their blooms, you can trim them back if need be. These I just trimmed a couple days ago. They were the only two I didn't get to before I went on vacation. We got so much rain that I just wasn't able to until now. This patch is a Lismachia. You can see where the original plant was, this little patch here, little clump, and it has spread like crazy. That was just one season. So once I figure out where to put that, I am going to move it because there's just not enough space in here. And it does need sun, otherwise I'd probably put it up against the house. But it's a really pretty plant. I just need to give it somewhere where it can spread out like this. So We'll show you the beautiful violas. Looking splendid. Those are temporary. I usually move them to a spot in the backyard where then they seed and come back the following year. But once it gets warmer out and I get my full annual wholesale order, the begonias are going to go in here, some sun-loving begonias. We're going to try that this year. And then we can move along to the back. We've got an Amsonia string theory coming up here. That'll be its first year. The heucheras all came back, just trimmed those up. And thankfully the Patriot hosta did back here as well. I was worried about that one. And the blue shadow Fothergilla is all full of buds right now. These are all going to be bright white blooms that look like bottle brushes. Very pretty. We'll see if the leaves get enough shade here to stay nice and blue. And then not too much to show back here. This patch of daffodils was about the only area that did well this year, which I'm kind of surprised. Normally this area has no trouble. I've had the tulips and daffodils back here for 4 or 5 years, but you can see they are looking pretty sad. And I don't know, maybe I'll get a couple tulip blooms, I'm not sure. But they really haven't petered out until now, so this patch looks really bad. I'm not sure if it's a water issue because this area stays so dry, but that's kind of normal. That's what it has been. Even in the winter, we barely get any snow piled up against the house here because the eaves of the house are so wide, and mine and my neighbor's houses are very close together. So you have to get really heavy wind and sideways rain or snow in order for it to get kind of in this area. But I don't know, maybe I'll pay more attention to watering this year and see if that helps. Because it's right next to the foundation, though, I can't do a whole lot of watering. That's pretty risky, so we'll see what happens there. And then I'll just show you up front here, because the rock garden always looks so pretty in the spring. It's so colorful without really needing any blooms. I do have the Muscari blooms in here now, which I absolutely love, and we'll plant more of those. They are so gorgeous. Like, look at that patch. That patch easily doubled in size. I just planted these last year. But all the sedum, look at all the colors of the sedum when it's emerging, and I have a bunch of different sempervivum in here, different colors. But they kind of turn color throughout the year, and it's funny, this is the same sedum, that bright yellow one, those two bright yellow patches, are the same as this more green one. This is Angelina sedum. So that one stays more green in the shade. But these will turn green during the season too. They'll darken out a little bit. I can see they kind of died in the center there, so we'll see what happens with that. There's that Muscari again. So beautiful. But yeah, I really love all the colors in this garden. Just goes to show you don't need blooms to have a beautiful, colorful space, whether it's in the sun or in the shade. So, anyway, guess I'll leave you with that. Beautiful view. Thank you so much for watching and for sticking around if you made it to the end of the video. Have a great day. Please subscribe.